Hello and good evening from the Peace Lands out here in Durango. How's everybody doing? Today was hot. Today was very, very hot, lethargic, and so doing, and quite intense. The energies were really bombardment, is what I would use the word for. Um, but so before I jump in, there's some announcements, and then there's also, I think, yeah, we'll start there. There's a little story because to ground the energy, actually, I had to um, go into the land and to kind of like actually ground. And when I first moved here, there was a buck, a male deer, a male mule deer that was the guardian of this place. So when I walked into the land, it's very alive. So I was making my introduction and saying hello and then fulfilling what we had talked about, me in the land. So I had moved. So all my stuff was in the U-Haul and I was making my introduction basically. And that was the first thing that um, was my greeting party was the buck. And he had a good rack on him. And it was a really special moment, but I could feel the doors, the introduction, and then the doors kind of open. Well, I went to Guatemala. I came back and I found his remains because most likely a cat, a mountain lion out here got him. But I found, you know, part of him anyways. And it was kind of saddening, but at the same time, it was also like feeling the cat energy around this place, which is very, very potent. So walking into the land today, there is a young buck, and that was the first male deer I've seen on the sacred land in a long, like since um since my welcome party. So, and he was a young one, and but he came really, really close, and it felt like a huge shifting point. It really, really did. So, and that just opened so much. So I wanted to, that was a big part of me being able to land in my body and in the energies. And then, funny enough, the buck, guided me to one of the sacred trees out here. So that was very, very fun. So, with that, there is the 7-8 group that I talked about in the last video that I'll put in the comments below. But without further ado, enough mumbo jumbo. Let's jump in. So this is not so much a divine masculine video. This is a masculine feminine video. So can be the twin flames. It can be divine counterparts. The love between two. I like that. That's what the language I use. Um, your internal masculine and the feminine, the energies in general. I think it's all of the above. But today felt like a huge shifting point on a lot of different levels. Because yesterday was I there was a lot of energy yesterday. And it was really fun to play with all that. But at the same time, it was kind of like it kept coming in. And I'm just like, oh geez, like I need places to put this. So today was kind of like a reset. And this is what, with the help of one of the sacred trees out here, what was coming in. So between the masculine and feminine, it's new ground. New ground have been reached. We've talked about this before. The lead up to the solstice, I thought was a huge marker. There was so much energy leading into it. And then once it happened, it did feel like, okay, this is new. I haven't touched this kind of energy before, especially in the dance of two. So the dance between masculine and feminine and the energies, but also just touching the energy in general. So you could feel that within the trees and everywhere you talk, like walked. It was just like, ooh, this is different. This is a different kind of world now. So then reaching this point, what I feel is happening between the two is it's a harmonizing time between the two, but there's this absence, not absence, distance. What's the right word? Space. There's this space between the two that is key in this kind of like harmonizing dance, because there's so much being activated. There's so much that has been activated. There it is. There's so much that has been activated and is like in some ways agitated, because when those codes within you are activated, they start to shake awake, and it starts to be a little bit of agitation in those areas of your energetic body. So it's actually really interesting to see it specifically to do with the masculine. What I was feeling in the collective energy stream was, so this, I've got to say this in twofold, because yes, it's in the collective stream at the same time, because it's kind of like I always see the collective stream more of like a disc, and it's more of an opal disc, and the way it kind of spins is kind of it's not a circle, it's a an opal kind of thing. So like when it shifts, it's kind of like when you hit new energy, it kind of hits that massive collective, and then it kind of waves in. That's how I've always seen the energy, especially dealing with the collective masculine stream. So that being said, the masculine energy, how I feel it and what it's hitting and what's being activated was this real, it wasn't a breath of exhaustion, but it was just like a breath of completion. That's what it felt like. It was just like content. That was really interesting, because it was actually reaping what had been sown and all the distance that it had traveled. It's not done. Like the journey's not done. That's not what I'm saying. But to this point, it's definitely lifted. And just taking a breather, or not breather, taking a moment to reconcile all the pieces and actually reaping all the fruits of your labor. Not the fruits of your labor, the fruits of your walk, of your journey, because it's not always labor. Rewriting the old cliches. But it was kind of like, huh, because it was interesting to feel that kind of energy. And it was, don't get me wrong, there's still shifts happening. It wasn't like, oh yeah, sitting out in a lawn chair. No, no, there's still shifts happening within the energies, but that was the main key takeaway. This directly related to the feminine energy and the collective stream. What I thought was interesting was that it was kind of like this settling moment and this reharmonization to this dance as well. So here's how it appeared to me. And from this is the vision I got. So when I was sitting by the sacred tree, how it felt, because the last video we talked about the garden, right? So how it felt was the feminine kind of keeping the distance, but not intentionally, but just kind of like becoming, refamiliarizing, and then also becoming aware of the masculine's presence within the garden as it's activated, and then also shifting and reharmonizing all of that, because now it's a space, there's a different dance now. But it was kind of like the vision that came through was like the feminine energy was in one part, like tending to the garden, tending to the energies, and just kind of glancing over at the masculine collective within the garden, and just kind of like a little bit of shifts because it had to reharmonize. So it's new, or yeah, yeah, I'll own that. It's new. So it's kind of like, okay, like it was this settling kind of like, and a little bit of irritation too, which would make sense because it goes hand in hand with the agitation with all the activation that's been happening, which I thought was very, very interesting to feel it. And there's nothing that needs to be done. It's actually more important to just let it settle and just kind of dance within it. It is interesting to feel, really, really interesting. I had a moment when I was tapping into this energy and then seeing it of um so when I tapped into the masculine stream, it was kind of looking out and being like, wow, and coming into landing and being like, wow, what a journey. So that kind of like, huh, and just complete peaceful joy, not ecstatic, not anything else. And then when I tapped into the feminine stream, it was kind of like orbiting and needing space, needing space. So, ah, yes. So I'll leave it here. Um, like I said, I'll link the groups. I have two separate groups available for 7-8, July 8th. One is on 7-7 and one is on 7-8. One's in the evening, one's in the morning. And it just feels like an activation, honestly. It does. It kind of feels like a turning point because you're tapping into energy. I think actually the more I tap into it, the more it's going to be kind of like an activation and a change in the trajectory. I keep seeing that. I keep seeing that again and again and again. So I am very excited for that. And if you feel called to it, the website's up. So it's coming in and I'm really happy for that. But with that, I'll leave it here and take my sweaty body into the shower. And Honor, I give you a lot of love. And I give you a lot of love. Shine bright. Take care.